Welcome to Influential Entrepreneurs, bringing you interviews with elite business leaders and experts, sharing tips and strategies for elevating your business to the next level. Here's your host, Mike Saunders.
Hello and welcome to this episode of Influential Entrepreneurs. This is Mike Saunders, the Authority Positioning Coach. Today we have back with us Jordan Mangaliman, who is a Fiduciary Retirement Advisor and founder of GoldLine Wealth Management. Jordan, welcome back to the program.
Thanks for having me, Mike.
Hey, I know today we want to talk about a really powerful topic, which is trust and transparency. And I would say that those are currencies in today's day and age, not like money or crypto or dollar or anything like that, but the currency of trust is so powerful because I feel like we have been distrustful for so many decades with all of the things we see online, or I can't trust this, or with AI, is this really the human talking or video? So I'm really excited that you're wanting to talk about trust and transparency. Talk a little bit about your views of what trust and transparency are, and what are some of the key factors that retirees have to be aware of to determine if they can even trust their current financial advisor.
Sure. So I think it's important to note that trust is one of those tricky things. It takes time to build, but you can lose it in a day, right?
Yeah.
And so our office believes that trust is earned and not given, and not just earned in the first transaction or earned in just the first year. We believe in earning that trust year in and year out for life, right? And so a lot of things go into trust. Communication. A lot of the times what we hear when clients are moving from their advisor, I haven't heard from my advisor since 2-3 years ago.
Yeah.
Or you know what, maybe I'll get my statement in and maybe we'll meet for 15 minutes a year, and that's about it. They're not giving me any new advice or any ways I can improve. So communication is important. Some of our core values are servanthood. We're here to serve. And there's something to be said for prioritizing client relationships over customer transactions. And as a consumer, as a client, as an investor, I think you'll know when it feels transactional versus transformational. And I'll give you we'll dive into that. A lot of people think that customers and clients are interchangeable, right? But they're actually very, very different. A customer transaction is if like I sold you, not to knock at the industry, but solar or just a life policy or a new policy where it's just very transactional. You might hear from me in a few years, or maybe I'll ask for some referrals. It's transactional, right? A customer relationship. A client relationship, on the other hand, is transformational. We're there with you with all of life's milestones and changes. We're doing Roth conversions. We're there with you. We need to take on more income. We're there with you. You're helping one of your kids or grandkids buy a home. We need to make some distributions. We're there with you, right? We're doing year-end tax planning. We're there with you, right? And that's what we focus on, is the relationship. That's what matters to us the most, the relationship over the transaction.
It reminds me of many years ago, I was in the mortgage industry, and you'd go to real estate closings. And I used to say this so many times, and it really was an eye-opener for people. It's really not a closing, it's an opening of a relationship. And that's exactly what you're describing here. If it's transactional, buy my financial product, that's great, and then you never hear from them again. But if it's a true opening of a relationship, then you've got their best interest at heart, and you're watching for ways to educate and teach them on the next thing they should be considering. And if it would benefit them, wonderful. If not, you're not going to be pushy.
Definitely. And I think a few things go into that, right? What other sources can you rely on to vet your potential retirement advisor? What's their track record? Do they have any reviews online, on Facebook, on Google, or on Better Business Bureau, right? What's their online presence? How does their website look? Is it informative? Is it aligning with what I'm trying to accomplish, right? Have they been published in any third-party sources to vet that this is just some website? Our firm has been featured in over 40 news publications, from Forbes, Yahoo Finance, CNN, MSNBC, U.S. News, Gold Bank Rates. We consider ourselves privileged to create content and education for retirees that are making some big decisions up ahead. Recently, we were on Fox News that aired 2 weeks ago, right? So we care about those things. What licenses does a retirement advisor hold, right? Is it just a life insurance license and they're trying to pigeonhole me into one product? Or do they have a securities license where they're not held to just one type of product? You mentioned it earlier, maybe they go to an event and they're not independent, they're captive into one type of product or one company. There's an excellent book written by Josh Brown, and it was called Backstage Wall Street. And he chronicles his time when he was at a firm, and every month his manager would knock on his door and say, "Hey, Josh, we got this mutual fund, and you got to sell X amount of products of this,
Yeah.
and we'll double your commission." Or, "Hey, we got this bond," or whatever it may be, and if you hit this, you'll hit your quota, twice as fast, right? And it didn't sit right with him. He said, "You know what? If that's the case, whose best interest am I working towards, my clients or my own?"
Right.
Right? And so all these questions are really important when you're interviewing your potential retirement advisor who's going to guide you through your retirement experience. Are they independent, or are they held to, you got to sell X amount of product or whatever it may be to meet your quota, and not really looking out for my best interest? Check for any complaints. Does the advisor have
Oh, yeah.
any formal complaints with the SEC? Right? Those things matter. And then go in for an interview, right? There's something to be said for chemistry between you and the advisor. Do you like their communication style? Do you generally like them? Do you trust them? Do they rub you the wrong way? Do you feel important and heard? Or are they just trying to sell you something or provide fiduciary advice? Right? So all those things kind of go into who you're potentially going to work with.
You brought up something that makes me remember a book I read years ago talking about how people can sell more of their services, but this point really goes to help a potential client really assess their advisor, like you're talking about. But basically, this book was talking about don't be pushy, teach, educate, be an advocate, and care about your prospects. And from your perspective there, you need to be educating people, not pitching them on products, because if someone is understanding, they're not going to understand to the level you do. But if they understand what you're talking about and they feel educated, they can make an educated decision versus being pushed. So talk a little bit about how that education can be prioritized, as far as from the prospect, sensing that. Like, what is a red flag of you're being pitched something versus you're not being taught?
Definitely. I think Warren Buffett has an awesome quote that opens up this conversation. He says, "Only invest in things you understand." Right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you're getting pitched something and it sounds really complicated, you don't get it, you should probably take your time to understand what the heck you're putting your money into. Right?
Yeah.
And so our office believes that knowledge is power. We always lead with education. We believe that an educated investor is a better investor, right? So I tell my clients all the time, this is never going to be a situation where you say, "Hey, you know what? Jordan's my money guy. I just give it to him and he's, it's all his decisions," right? I'm like, no, that's not how we operate here. We like to say, "Hey, we're partnering up. We're collaborating. At the end of the day, this is still your money. Never passes through our hands. We're just giving you advice and recommendations to say, hey, this would suit you best for what you're trying to accomplish," right? By prioritizing education, a retiree is armed with tools, knowledge to make more informed decisions. And retirees often know when they're trying to be sold or they're trying to get pressured into something, or if the advisor is taking the time to educate them on things they're not even thinking about or not knowledgeable about, on best practices and strategies for retirement success.
Huge. And I think here's something to also think about. Sometimes you will have kind of like the word silo is coming to mind. If you're working with someone that is just selling one specific type of product, they've got this silo of a product and that's all they do. On one hand, that's good because they're an expert. But on the other hand, as the pre-retiree, is that serving you well? Because in reality, you might need a whole team of people that know estate planning, tax planning, income planning, insurance planning, all of these things. So let's dive into now the benefit of having this holistic approach and finding an advisor that you can trust, right? That brings all of that to the table rather than having to start from scratch and finding the next expert to help you with a full complete plan.
Definitely. You bring a great point. If an advisor can only sell or push towards one solution or one product, are they really keeping your best interest in mind or just trying to sell you the only thing they can? There's a
Mhm.
saying, when all you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail, right? And it's a hard position to be in as a consumer. You're like, oh, I don't know if this is best for me, but this is all I can sell me, right? What you want is holistic planning. I think that's where the market is heading. So for all our listeners out there, I want you to Google a family office or a family office style setup. And essentially, they were previously reserved for clients who had 15 to $30 million or more in assets. Then you could really build a
Okay.
family office. And what it is basically you have every institution in what you need, whether it's insurance planning, investment planning, all in one hub, right? Insurance, taxes, estate planning. Now, I'm not here to say, hey, I'll do your taxes for you and I'll do everything for you. That's not what we're saying. What we're saying is that your retirement advisor should act as your personal CFO, your chief financial officer, right? And your chief financial officer should make recommendations to say, hey, this part of your plan needs to be planned out. And you shouldn't expect them to do the actual planning, but they should refer you to someone that they trust in their network, right? Because there's something to be said for synergy amongst your advisors. The
Mhm.
reason why it works is because, two, you don't have to go vetting on Google or Yelp, trying to find the best other advisor. Hopefully they have a referral for you. And two, you don't have to go re-explaining your plan to each part of your team. You're essentially building a team of professionals around you. Now, I want to highlight something. I said this is a referral. At that point, these are options that once the introduction is made, you have the initial meeting and consultation, and then you get to, the same way you interviewed your advisor for retirement, interview them to say, hey, is this a personal good fit, right? So if it's a tax planning, you want to work with a good CPA that focuses on that. If it's insurance planning, you're looking for a good insurance broker. If you're looking for estate planning, you're looking for someone who, really an attorney that focuses on estate planning, and maybe a living trust, whatever it may be. Once you've gone through the process of meeting these individuals and put together your team, now you have a financial team built around you and your goals, right? And so we have a retirement compass that touches on all of these pieces. Again, we don't do the estate planning, and neither would you want your advisor to.
Yeah.
But that's where you get referred on to the estate planning attorney that'll walk you through that process, right?
Because those are major pillars in a retirement plan, and then there's bullet points and subpoints underneath each of those. But if someone is listening to what you just said and thinks, hold on, I've got my tax person that files my taxes and I've got my insurance person and financial person, I don't have a estate planning attorney. I don't have a tax planning professional. And see, there's a big difference, and we can go off on a tangent on that, but there's a difference between a tax preparer and a strategic tax planner. If someone is hearing this going, I don't have any of those, do I need them? And then also from someone that goes, I already have a guy, right? I've got my tax. Can you work with a client that already has their professionals in that realm and bring them in to get them on the same page? And then what would you say to someone that goes, I don't even have anyone, and do I need all these people?
Definitely. Yeah. By all means, a lot of people already have their own professional set. I always say, like, hey, if the plan is good, let's keep it. If you want a second opinion, why not? A lot of times it doesn't cost you anything for a second opinion, because tax laws, especially on the tax aspect, tax laws are changing. There's some that are sundowning 2025. So you have to be vigilant and agile to what's going on. And if it's a great plan, then we say, hey, let's add them to the team. It's not an all or nothing approach with us and our firm. We want to have synergy. If you have good chemistry with your current advisor, maybe it's taxes or estate planning. Yeah, let's keep that intact and build a team around you, and getting that second opinion if it makes sense. You touched on something in terms of taxes. We do a whole class literally on just taxes in retirement because those rules change then as opposed to the taxes you had in your working years. A tax Prepare is probably going to meet with you once a year, sometime in March, right? March, April. But at that point, it's probably too late to tax plan because you're working on last year's numbers,
Yeah.
right? A tax strategist or a tax planner is working with you a few times a year to saying, hey, are we in line with what our goals are? Are there any changes that we need to be made? And what we like to do is oftentimes we work in tandem with a CPA. If they have a CPA, we'll get on a call with them and say, hey, this is what we're planning for this year end. Like if we're trying to do we're doing this in October, this podcast, we have about 3 months left for a Roth conversion. We got to plan for that, right?
Hmm.
And so having that in coordination with your tax professional is extremely important.
Now, someone might be listening to that going, I'm not a business owner with 9 levels of corporate entities and rental properties. Do I need that?
I would say it never hurts to check, right?
Yeah.
Because we make these assumptions to say, oh, you know what, I got simple stuff. I got Social Security and IRA income, and that's it. Well, are there strategies that we can implement to possibly improve your tax situation? Can we do Roth conversions? Do you have a business that maybe you're not strategizing for? Do you have this rental property that you forgot that, can be helpful for your overall picture, right? And that's where working with an advisor, doing overall strategy, and then bringing in a tax professional really becomes valuable.
100%. Well, Jordan, let's wrap up with this thought. If someone is talking to an advisor, what is something that they might be being told that would trigger them as a red flag that maybe the trust and transparency isn't all that it should be, and maybe you should be moving on?
I got one. I got a good one. So after a lot of our classes, I'll have clients ask me, oh, should I be in the stock market or a big one? Are
Mhm.
annuities bad? Should I not buy an annuity? And from a fiduciary perspective, what am I going to say? Yeah, annuities are bad, or no, don't be in the stock
Right.
market. You can't say that, right? Because
Yeah.
all investments have attributes, and those attributes are geared to solve specific problems, right? Let's say we're looking at cars, and I say, you know what? Two-door Porsches are really nice, but vans suck.
Yeah.
You're like, well, wait a minute. If I'm trying
But
to,
if you got 4 kids and they're in
yeah,
soccer, a van would be the perfect solution. Yeah.
exactly. And that's the way we need to look at investments, right? Or investment types. Like each investment type has attributes and they're geared to solve a problem. So for maybe I'm looking for high growth and liquidity. Okay, maybe we're looking at ETFs or mutual funds or stocks, right? Something with high growth. If I'm looking for more safety, and I don't mind not touching that money for a while, I want some guarantees. Maybe an annuity makes sense, right? Or if I need liquidity, right? And I need the money in the next 5 months, but I want to gain some interest on that, and I want some safety in there. Maybe I'm looking at money market. So if an advisor is straight up telling you, oh, stocks are bad, or the market's bad, or annuities are
Yeah.
bad, I would definitely pause and
Yeah.
see that as a potential red flag. How are
Potential.
you going to
Yeah.
tell me? How are you going to tell me this is bad? You don't even know what I'm trying to accomplish, And what if it's a good
Yeah. If
fit for
someone
me?
says every
Yeah.
time, all the time, never, always, sometimes those are words that you might need to dig a little bit deeper into. That's a great
Mm-hmm.
point. And
Yeah.
and don't get frustrated if someone goes, well, it kind of depends, because that's not a wishy-washy answer. If they follow it up with, well, it depends. Let's talk about what your long-term goals are. What does retirement look like to you? And let's see if that is a good fit. If it is, let's explore it. If not, we push it off to the side.
Exactly. Exactly. You can't
Love
say
it.
always bad or always good,
Well,
right?
like
Yeah.
I started off this conversation, trust is a currency and it should be protected. And I think this has been so spectacular to hear your views on trust and transparency. So if someone is interested in learning a little bit more about what you guys do and reaching out and connecting with you, what's the best way they can do that?
Sure. Log on to our website, www.goldlinewealthmanagement.com. You see a lot of great information, learn about our team. We have some tax planning guides that you can download. And if you want to learn more and maybe schedule a quick 15-minute call to see if we're a good fit, you could reach us at jordan@goldline-financial.com.
Excellent. Well, Jordan, thank you so much for coming back on. It's been a real pleasure talking with you again.
Awesome. Thanks, Mike. God bless.
You've been listening to Influential Entrepreneurs with Mike Saunders. To learn more about the resources mentioned on today's show or listen to past episodes, visit www.influentialentrepreneurssradio.com.